In this series, my friend and follower, we will explain a book about money. It is considered one of the best books ever written on the subject of money, and it is also one of the best-selling books of all time. This book will change your understanding of money. You will start to see money in a different way. You will see money the same way the wealthy see it, and if you begin to think like them and view money the way they do, you will become rich like them. I am confident that this book will change your financial life forever. This is the first part of our explanation of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by the amazing author Robert Kiyosaki. In this video, the most important thing is simple. Prepare a cup of coffee or your favorite drink. Sit back and let's enjoy. Peace be upon you. And welcome, my friend and follower, to my channel, where music meets books. If you are new to this channel, simply put, I read a book and I give you valuable insights. So if you want to gain the benefits of reading without actually reading, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The book begins, My Friend and Follower, with an introduction by Robert Kiyosaki that I personally consider one of the best introductions I have ever read in the history of books. Of course, anyone listening to me might think that I have read a huge number of books. In reality, I haven't read more than 100 books. Still, honestly, this introduction was truly great. In the introduction, Robert Kiyosaki wanted to deliver a very clear message. Wealth is a mindset, and poverty is also a mindset. This is true regardless of how much money you have. A person may have $10 million yet still have a poor mindset, and eventually lose those $10 million. On the other hand, someone may have only $1,000 but possess a wealthy mindset, and one day that person will become a millionaire. If you think about it, my friend and follower, this is exactly what happens in real life. There are people who started from nothing and became wealthy today. And there are others who inherited millions from their parents and grandparents, but ended up losing all that money. So wealth is not about money. Wealth is a way of thinking. In the introduction, Robert Kiyosaki made a very beautiful comparison between the rich mindset and the poor mindset. And he said, once upon a time, long ago, I was born and had two fathers, a rich dad and a poor dad. One of them was highly educated, intelligent, and held a PhD, while the other did not finish the 8th grade. Both of them worked hard throughout their lives, and both earned very high incomes. Yet one struggled financially his entire life, while the other became one of the richest men in Hawaii. He says that one of them died leaving his family tens of millions of dollars, charitable foundations, and places of worship, while the other died leaving his family debts that had to be paid. Both fathers emphasized the importance of education, but one focused only on academic education, while the other emphasized life education alongside academic education. Robert Kiyosaki says that the problem at that time was that when he was young, both fathers were middle class. The rich dad was not rich yet, and the poor dad was not poor yet. This put him in great confusion, because each one gave him advice and he didn't know whom to listen to. The differences between them were truly strange. For example, one of them always said, "The love of money is the root of all evil." He believed that people who chase money, businesses, and worldly success are the source of evil on earth. He said they are the ones who take people's money, and because of them, there are poor people, famines, and homelessness. While the other said, the lack of money and poverty are the root of all evil. He believed that if there were no poor people, there would be no theft, no murder, no deception, and no problems. Who is right and who is wrong? We don't know. We'll find out later. One of them always said, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't create opportunities. While the other always said, how can I do this? What do I need to make it happen? Even if he spent a long time thinking, at least he opened his mind to think. And this is the big difference, my friend and follower. Robert comments and says, one of them would shut the door on his mind with the very first sentence, while the other gave himself space to think. One of these statements gives you comfort by stopping you from thinking, and the other forces you to think. One of them used to say, study hard so you can find a good company to work for, while the other said, study hard so you can find a good company to buy. One of them said, my family, my wife, and my children are the reason I didn't become rich. Responsibilities and obligations. While the other said, my family, my wife, and my children are the reason I must become rich. The difference in thinking is huge. One of them always said, be careful, play it safe, don't take risks. While the other said, learn how to manage risk. One of them said, the house you own is the biggest investment and the greatest asset you can ever have. While the other said, the house you own is a liability because it comes with bills, maintenance, and costs. One of them always said, I will never become a millionaire, not even in my dreams. While the other, even before becoming rich, always said, I am rich and rich people don't do this. This wasn't just talk, it was action and a way of life. One of the most beautiful lessons the rich dad taught Robert Kiyosaki was this. There is a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is temporary, it passes. But being poor is something that can last a lifetime. Don't be afraid of being broke. Be afraid of being poor. Robert Kiyosaki says, I noticed that my poor dad was poor because of his thinking, his behavior, and the way he looked at and dealt with money. While my rich dad became rich because he thought like rich people, handled money like them, and saw money the way the wealthy see it. He then goes on to say, you might think of a phrase that poor people in the middle class often repeat. They say, money is a means, not a goal. Money is not important. Money is dirty. But this is not true. If money is not important, why do we work 8 hours a day until the age of 60? The truth, my friend and follower, is that money matters. God Almighty says, wealth and children are the adornment of the life of this world. If you sit with wealthy people, you will never hear them say that money is dirty or that money is not important. That is why they are wealthy, while you and I are still middle class or poor. There's nothing wrong with thinking about money. There is nothing wrong with changing the way you think about it. You have the right to build wealth, and your children have the right to live a dignified life. After that, my friend and follower, Robert Kiyosaki, ends the introduction with a very beautiful story. A story that happened to him in Hawaii when he was 9 years old in 1956. Robert says, I went to my father while he was reading the morning newspaper. I was about 9 years old at the time, and I said to him, Dad, teach me how to become rich. He says the question caught his attention. He turned to me and said, why do you want to become rich? I said, because today at school my friend Jimmy's mother picked him up in a new luxurious car, and they went to their house by the beach to spend the weekend. In short, wealthy people have a second house on the beach. They go there only on weekends, while you and I spend our weekends at the mall and the movie theater. My father said to me, are you sure they're going to their beach house just for the weekend? I said, yes. He went back to reading the newspaper and stayed silent, and I stood there, waiting for an answer. After a while, he put the newspaper down and said to me, all right, my son, if you want to become rich, you must learn how to make money. I said, and how do I make money? He said, use your brain. As if he was telling me, don't talk too much. This is the maximum I can teach you. The very next day, I immediately went to my close friend, not Jimmy, his name was Mike. I said to him, do you want to be my partner? He said, partner in what? I said, in the business of making money. I told him, do you want to be like Jimmy? They have toys, money, a beach house, and a good life. He said, all right, let's become partners, and let's learn how to make money. Robert says, and from there the brainstorming process began, and we started thinking of every possible way to make money. He says until we finally came up with a brilliant idea. We shook hands and decided to start the money-making business. For weeks, we went door to door in the neighborhood, and we told people, "Give us your leftover toothpaste." Some of them asked us, "What are you going to do with it?" We would say, "It's a secret. We can't tell you right now." We collected leftover toothpaste, soda cans, milk cartons, and many other things, and we opened a factory in the garage. He says even my father was amazed. He would bring his friends to the garage to see this strange production line. White powder everywhere, and cans scattered around. After some time, my father came to the factory opening day. We were making fake coins using milk carton caps. My father said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're making money, just like you told me." He took the coin, looked at it carefully, smiled, then laughed. He said, "This is counterfeiting, my son." Of course, we didn't know what counterfeiting meant. He explained it to us, and our dreams were crushed. He said, "When I told you to make money, I meant to earn it, not to counterfeit it." Then he said, "If you want to learn how to build wealth, go to Mike's father." He said, "Mike's father knows how to turn money into wealth. As for Jimmy's father, his company is the one that gave him the car, the house, and the salary. And one day, he will be middle class. But Mike's father is smart. He knows how to make money work for him. And one day, he will become rich." And indeed, Mike's father is the rich dad that Robert Kiyosaki talks about. Mike and I went to his father and said to him, "We want you to teach us how to turn money into wealth." He set an appointment for us on Saturday. We went to his house. It was a simple wooden house, a bit worn out, but he had a small office and employees. He owned 2 stores and a warehouse. And on Saturdays, he held meetings with his employees. We waited a long time for our turn, until we finally went in to see him. As he pulled out a chair, he said to us, "Are you boys ready?" We said, "Yes." He asked me specifically, "I heard you want to learn how to make money. Is that true?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I'll make you an offer. I will teach you how to make money, but not in the traditional way. No lectures and no talking. I will teach you the way life teaches you. If you don't work for me, I won't teach you anything. This is the offer. You either accept it or you reject it." Robert says, I said to him, "All right, can I ask you a question?" He said, "No, there's no room for questions. This is the offer. You either accept it or you reject it. If you don't learn how to make decisions quickly, you will never learn how to make money. Opportunities come and go fast, and this opportunity is right in front of you now. You either take it or you leave it." He says, I said, "I accept." And Mike said, "I accept as well." He said, "Excellent. Now Mrs. Martin will take you to the workplace and teach you the nature of the job. I will pay you only 10 cents for 3 hours of work every Saturday." I said to him, "But on Saturdays I have a soccer game." He says his tone changed, and anger appeared in his voice. He said, "This is the offer. You either learn or you go play." He says, so I said, "No, no. I accept the offer." And here, my friend and follower, ask yourself, if you were given this choice, would you choose to learn or would you choose to play? Robert says, "We started working in the store. Our job was to clean the shelves from dust and organize the merchandise. Every Saturday, we worked for 3 hours, and we were paid 30 cents. What hurt the most was that as soon as I received the 30 cents, I would go and buy 3 children's comic magazines, each one costing 10 cents. The most frustrating part was that before the middle of the week arrived, I had already finished reading all the magazines, and I would count the days until Saturday came, just so I could work again and buy more magazines. This situation continued for 4 weeks, and we did not see Mike's father even once since the meeting. He says, my father came to me and asked, 'You said you were learning how to make money. What have you learned?' I said, 'Honestly, we work 3 hours every Saturday. We haven't seen Mike's father at all, and he hasn't taught us anything.' My father said to me, 'This is exploitation. Go to him and tell him, Either teach me properly or increase my salary or I quit. And here, my friend and follower, pay attention. These words came from the poor dad. He says, I fueled myself with anger. I went to the store and said to Mike, I can't take this anymore. Either he raises my pay or I stop working. Mike said to me, my dad told me that if you say this, tell him he wants to see you on Saturday. Saturday came. We stood in line again. But this time, it felt different. He finished his meetings with the employees. Then he sat on the phone for half an hour, and I was boiling with anger. Finally, he opened the door and said, come in. We went in to see him. Leaning back in his swivel chair, he said, I heard you want a raise or you're going to quit. He says, I was just a child, holding everything inside. So I burst into tears and said, you broke your promise. You promised to teach us, and for 4 weeks we haven't seen you. I gave up soccer just to work for you. He listened to me until I finished. Then he said calmly, you're not bad. In less than a month, you've become like most employees. I didn't understand what he meant, and I said, you didn't teach me anything. He said, yes, I did. I said, what did you teach me? I worked for 4 weeks for 30 cents. He laughed and said, change your perspective. Don't blame me. Change the way you think. Life teaches you without speaking, and I teach you the same way. Robert Kiyosaki says, I said to him, please tell me, what is the lesson you taught me that made me work 3 hours every Saturday for 30 cents? I said to him, what I learned is that you are cheap and unwilling to pay your employees. He laughed and said, change your perspective. Stop blaming others and try to change yourself. Learn how to solve the problem and benefit from it instead of trying to blame someone else. He says, believe me, the easiest thing to change is yourself, and the hardest thing to change is another person. I said to him, I don't understand. He said, don't blame me for your problems. You are the problem. He said to me, if you truly believe that I am the problem, what options do you have right now? I said, either you raise my salary or I quit. He said, exactly. That's what most people do. If they don't get a raise, they quit. They go to another job, and after some time, they complain about the salary again, and they repeat the same cycle. I said to him, then what's the solution? He said, tapping my head, the solution is here, in your mind. He said, the lesson I taught you over the past 4 weeks is this: a job and a salary will never make you rich. Then he asked me, how did you feel standing in line? Once to ask for a job, and another time to ask for a raise? I said, it felt bad, frustrating. He said, that is the feeling of an employee for life. He said, if you choose to be an employee, you will spend your life chasing a job or a salary until you reach 55 or 60 years old. Even if the salary is high, you will most likely never become rich. That's why you see people with high incomes, but even higher debts. He said to me, you are 9 years old now, and you tasted the bitterness of a job early. Others live 50 years before understanding this lesson. He said, the rich do not work for money. Money works for them. Their money works while they sit still. And this was the very first lesson he taught me. He said to me, what do you think? Did I teach you or not? I thought for a moment and said, yes, you taught me. He said, are you willing to learn more? I said, yes. He said, all right then. From today on, you will work without 30 cents. I said, I agree. He said to Mike, and you? He said, I agree as well. He said, good, go to the store. Robert says, I left his office completely shocked. I had come to ask for a raise or to quit, and now I was going back to work with no pay. And this is how the great introduction of this book comes to an end. In the next video, my friend and follower, we will talk about the first lesson of the 6 lessons that made Robert Kiyosaki one of the wealthiest people. If you'd like to follow the rest of the series, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with others. This is the end of today's episode. I'll see you next week, God willing, and thank you for your time. It is truly priceless. Peace be upon you.